All right, so I think the string thing about thing is ready to go though. So hello everybody, Megazard X here, back at it again to give you another very exciting video. And for today, yes, I have none other than Loki to go through and discuss for tonight. Man, oh shoot, episode 5 in a nutshell was absolutely crazy, absolutely nuts with all the extra stuff that they were able to throw up in this one episode. A lot to unpack, and I might as well go ahead and jump up into it because there's a lot of meat and potatoes to heat up in this one though. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight up into that episode review for none other than Disney Plus shows Disney Plus show Loki. All right, so let's go ahead and jump straight up into this plot right here because, man, oh goodness, there's a lot to go through. So, Loki has landed in the void, a mysterious realm inhabited by an aggressive storm like entity known as Alioth. He joins fellow variants Classic Loki, Kid Loki, Boastful Loki, and even, yes, an alligator Loki in a run through the Immortus Beast. At the Time Variance Authority, Sylvie interrogates Ravonna in her courtroom as to the agency origins, like, trying to figure out exactly, what this agency is all about. But finds Renslayer is also clueless. Renslayer reveals to Sylvie that Loki is still alive in a void at the end of time, where the contents of branch realities are sent. As the five Lokis traverse through the temporal wasteland, Loki attempts to devise a plan to escape back to the TVA, suggesting that intentionally cause a Nexus event. However, he is shut down by the others. They eventually come across a hatch and deceased towards the bunker underground. Meanwhile, Renslayer directs Miss Minutes to retrieve a classified information about the agency's origins. As the end of time remains to be determined, Sylvie goodness. Sylvie realizes that no one can cause any Nexus event in the void. When Sylvie purposely goes to the void, Miss Minutes begins to search for fake files regarding the void timecraft, but actually summons a team of Minutemen. Renslayer betrays Sylvie when prompted by Renslayer to surrender herself into confinement in a time cell. Sylvie prunes herself instead. In the bunker, the Lokis socialize, sharing their origins when Loki abruptly leaves to escape the void by killing Alioth. The other Lokis, knowing such a feat is impossible, erupt in laughter. Loki encounters President Loki and his army of Loki variants. Upon opening the exit hatch, they enter the bunker. Elsewhere, Sylvie lands in the void near Alioth. While fleeing, she receives a vision of uncharted castle after coming across contact with the beast. Mobius, yes, he is alive, arrives in a pizza delivery car to retrieve her. Believing that heading towards Alioth will be their only way out of the void, Sylvia convinces Mobius to turn the car around and head towards the beast. Boastful Loki reveals that he has led President Loki and his army to the bunker in exchange for the Void's throne. However, President Loki reveals that he deceived the boastful Loki, intending to keep the throne and army. In turn, President Loki's army turns on him, and Alligator Loki bites his hand off. I was like, "Oh shoot!" You know what? That Alligator Loki right there was like one of the one of the best things about this episode. Oh shoot! Which after that little scene led them to an all-out brawl for power. Classic Loki conjures illusions of himself, Loki, Kid Loki, and Alligator Loki, while leading them outside of via a portal. Classic and Kid Loki sequentially agree to help Loki approach Alioth. On the way, they witness a cruise ship materialize in Alioth's path, which swiftly turns into a pile of scrap, leaving no survivors. The four of them encounter Mobius and Sylvie and plan to deal with Alioth using Sylvie's enchantment. Renslayer approaches a captive hunter B-15 inside of a theater, wanting to learn what influences Sylvie's campaign B-15. Knowing Renslayer and Sylvie both seek the TVA's origins, reveals that her revenge against the agency is the driving factor behind it. Leaving the room, Renslayer contacts Miss Minutes and asks for them to retrieve all the files surrounding the beginning of time and the agency's origins. Loki and Sylvie sit beside each other, bonding in preparation for their trek to Alioth and their uncertainty of the aftermath. Loki assures Sylvie that he will not betray her, having moved beyond the narcissism behind the prior betrayals. As the aftermath, Loki purposes, or proposes, should I say, they venture through it together. As they approach the storm, Sylvie hands Loki a tin pad in return to the TVA, but he insists on accompanying her. He passes the device to Mobius. Classic Alligator and Kid Loki decide to remain as well. Loki receives a blade from Kid Loki and shares a heartfelt parting hug with Mobius as he passes through the time door. Pleading to destroy the TVA, Classic Kid and Alligator Loki begin to walk away. Loki and Sylvie wait for a branching timeline to occur to distract Alioth, allowing Sylvie to enchant the storm. However, they soon adopt a new strategy. Loki runs sideways, attempting to make himself the distraction, ultimately providing the ultimately proven futile when Alioth prepares to devour Sylvie. Sylvie is saved when classic Loki returns, using his powers to generate a massive illusion of Asgard. Witnessing the potency of classic Loki's magic, the duo discerns that they are stronger than they realize. Sure enough, Alioth attacks the false Asgard, and giving Loki and Sylvie just enough time to gain contact with the storm, classic Loki is devoured in the process. The storm, now neutralized, reveals a portal in a castle, or portal to a castle in a realm beyond the end of time. Loki and Sylvie approach it together, and that's basically all that happens within this one episode. Holy shoot, there was just a lot that was going down. Honestly, after Loki got pruned, I knew he wasn't dead. They sent him to some kind of alternate dimension, and we did get to see him there. And it's interesting how they literally send him all the way to the end of time just to be able to say, hey, you know what? Because basically all stuff has to come and end somewhere. But the fact that they have to end at the very end of time makes it kind of interesting with that fact that, okay, it kind of makes sense because that way, all the branching timelines or whatever, though, they couldn't completely erase them, but send them at the end of time where basically anything they do there doesn't really affect the mainstream leading up to it. Kind of makes sense. And that's why, okay, I guess it really makes sense. I don't know any kind of way to kind of beating around the bush on that one, though. But honestly, I was just thinking through this. I was like, oh, okay, all righty. Well, I get you. I get you right there. I get you. But I don't know. It's the whole thing with time, space, and all that kind of stuff that's sort of kind of jumbling up just a little bit for me, though. But I guess at the end of the day, it sort of kind of makes sense why they had to get brought over here to this one time dimension or whatever, though. But I guess in terms of the real timekeepers, the ones that basically formed the TVA, it would make sense they were in an area and protected in in a crazy way how nobody else can normally get there. Because basically, if you're only sending people variants that you thought were messing up the timeline to a time period here, and then having a guard dog, basically that big old storm, devour everything and permanently pretty much erase them, then I guess that is probably the most safest way because not anybody can normally get to that area. It's only who the TVA takes and puts in that area. So it kind of makes the timekeepers pretty safe unless you're dealing with a bunch of Lokis, including what's our modern Loki. Oh gosh, I mean earlier when I was just giving the plot synopsis, I said Loki a crap ton of times right there. I was like, oh my goodness, I think that's the most time I ever said that man's name right there though. But overall, this was a very interesting episode. I did like the little humor that alligator Loki. I mean, like think about it. There's a variant known as an alligator that was a Loki. Like what are the odds of that? And I feel like that can only happen with Loki. And then also when Mobius came back, it felt really good to kind of see him back in action though. Kind of giving that last little bit of an assist to Loki as well as Sylvie right before he decides to leave. Since Sylvie managed to grab a tin pad and also gave it back to him though. So yeah, so ideally, technically, the dude could come back if he were to prune his own self, find these two, open the portal back, and then go back to where he was. That technically Mobius might be their scapegoat for how they get out, unless these timekeepers were to, or if they're timekeepers in this one little area or zone where they're heading to is the it. So it also makes me think this is the fifth episode. We only got one more episode left, so it makes me think, all right, what the heck is actually going to go down in that very last episode? We basically have to conclude everything that Sylvie's been working for, trying to destroy the TVA or trying to get the origins of it. Then we also got to worry about that other woman who works at the TVA as well, who also wants to know the origin stories, but kind of doing a crazy way, roundabout way, a secretive way to kind of figure out the origins while also still trying to hold control over the TVA. I mean, she's kind of loyal to a fault right there, which is kind of a little bit disturbing though, but it kind of makes sense for her character though. You got to have some kind of antagonistic sort of kind of character, which we thought was Sylvie all the time, but how the script flips basically though. But anyway, outside of that, it just makes me think, all right, are they going to actually find these timekeepers here? Are they going to be able to explain the whole entire origins of the TVA and what they're actually responsible the in terms of time and everything that's supposedly supposed to be on that sacred timeline, or is this all a hoax? I mean, it's not really all a hoax because this thing actually, or these timekeepers actually do exist within the Marvel comics. So I'm kind of curious what the little spin they're trying to do it with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, though. But y'all gotta let me know down in the comment section down below what all did you think about this episode and what are you looking forward to within the final last episode for Loki. You know, the series only had 6 episodes, and that's 5 done with one more left to go. But also, before I conclude everything up for this one Loki review, a little bit of other MCU news here that happened to drop out today. This is Thursday evening, the day before Black Widow actually drops out. You technically could watch it tonight. I think it drops at like 2 a.m. Central Standard Time, which actually be this is gonna be shortly outdated or whatever though. Or basically you can go to the theaters, watch this, or you can watch it on Disney Plus. I have it on Disney Plus. I am gonna watch it tomorrow. And in terms of my review, it is either gonna drop out on either Saturday or Sunday. I'm gonna stream it one of the 2 days. It just kind of depends on what my schedule is looking like. But be on the lookout for that. And I'm gonna basically talk about the plot, everything I thought about it, because this is going to be officially my first MCU review or MCU movie, should I say, review for Black Widow. So it's going to be interesting on that regard as well. And that wasn't the only little bit of news. We also managed to get the release date for What If. So basically, when Loki drops with its episode 6 next week, the next 3 Wednesdays, we won't have any Disney Plus shows on the Marvel side that's brand new. But on that fourth one, so basically a whole month after the last episode of Loki, we'll have the What If series, and that will basically start up in August, midway August. So I'm like, okay, so that's nice right there. That's nice. And I was like, and based on the little trailer they showcased off, I was like, dang, I was like, I like all of the what if scenarios with being able to give certain powers to other people, or if one event didn't happen to this one character and it might make somebody else completely different. So I am looking forward to that. I will review that series as well. It won't have the greater effect on the MCU as a whole, but you know what? It is a comic book series, so I'm very interested to see how well it's going to be played out, especially since the whole thing is animated as well. Sort of kind of gives you like that Into the Spider-Verse to kind of feel as well if y'all happen to see that one movie though. But that's it in terms of basically all the Marvel news. So keep an eye out for that Black Widow review sometime this weekend whenever I plan to go ahead and stream that though. But that's going to basically do it in terms of this one Loki episode review though. So you really like this review, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and that bell to stay up to date on all things Marvel that I feel like discussing, including that, Black Widow movie that's coming out here fairly soon, as well as we get to the conclusion of Loki with episode 6 next week. So remember, y'all, until whatever video I make next, see y'all.